Hello, welcome to another episode of SEO Science. I'm Richard Billing and delighted to be joined again by Miko. How's it going, Miko, today?
Yeah, that's good. Yeah, the weather's nicer now. That's for sure.
Yeah, lashing down. But we had a few nice days of sun, but it just makes it horrible working in an office when it's
hmm
so hot.
Yeah.
Um, so one of the downsides of SEO is that it's all on computers. So, well, it's been quite an interesting week in the world of sort of technology, AI, SEO. Well, SEO is related to it all, I suppose, but particularly ChatGPT is what we're going to talk about today. We're going to get into the sort of ethics and legal situations surrounding ChatGPT because it's a tool that's used by an awful lot of SEOs. Um, People are becoming quite reliant on it. And we're also going to talk about how that reliance has had a negative impact for certain people. Um, so let's start then with the furore that's sparked with this week with ChatGPT and Scarlett Johansson. Nico, do you want to have give us a little overview?
Yeah. So recently, I think May 13th or 14th, I want to say, just ChatGPT published a demo of the new model, which is the ChatGPT 4.0 or 4.5. Is one of them. We
Yeah.
can never get behind the numbers. And they use a voice in it. So they announced that there's going to be 5 voices available that are going to be like AI. Some of the things they showed off are like really impressive. Like one of them
Yeah.
was that it had 2 people next to each other. One of them was speaking in Spanish and one of them was speaking in English, and it had like seamless translation with like trying to make fill in the gaps. Where like with Google Translate, what normally would happen is you wouldn't get like a perfect translation because Google would be trying to find like was that the exact meaning of the word rather than like a colloquial, like a conversational way of speaking. And
Yeah.
ChatGPT would obviously doesn't have that problem and it just covers it normally, which is like the big thing with it. That was one of the things they showed off. Then they showed off like a AI companion, so like what they'd like help you out with meetings and things like that, which already has a feature, but now it's like talking to you. Um, if you are familiar with the movie Her, from 2013, Spike Jones. One of my favorite films. I really enjoy it. In it, there is an AI companion called Samantha, who is voiced by Scarlett Johansson. And the whole point behind her is that she's like a soothing voice and like builds a relationship with the man played by Joaquin Phoenix. Um, what happened as a result of this announcement was that Scarlett Johansson came out and said that Sam Altman, who is the founder of OpenAI and ChatGPT, obviously, contacted her trying to get her to be a voice for the ChatGPT so that they could announce it and, like say that they have her voice. And he posted a tweet saying her, just her by itself, like the name of the movie. Uh, and then when the announcement came out, they used a voice called Sky, and this voice was very, very similar to Samantha or Scarlett Johansson's voice.
Yeah.
And then it turns out that she started to sue them and opened a lawsuit, saying that it's too eerily similar to what she was her voice, and that they used it without like her consent, especially because she declined the offer and she didn't want to voice the AI.
Yeah.
But the actors they got, or I don't know, maybe it was Scarlett Johansson, who knows what they did. Um, it just made it sound so similar that she decided to fire up a lawsuit over it, which resulted in like a lot of discussion about copyright law of AI and stuff like that. So
Yeah. It is. It's really interesting. I think it's just really bold to approach someone, ask for permission, they say no, and then you just do it anyway. Like
no,
they can't deny that they've done it. Like
well, he
it's taking
posted a
it
tweet
down.
saying her. You know what I mean?
I
Like
know, yeah.
there's nothing else it could mean, but
I know. And they've taken it down, so they must they must know. Like if they were confident that it was unique or that they could prove that it was unique, then they would have left it up.
Well, in fact, like they might have just taken it down because of the lawsuit, but from the news story I read, they said that they uh don't think that there's any similarity between them, which is like an obvious lie in my opinion, but
Yeah.
that was their argument. So yeah, it's very interesting though. Like it's very dystopian as well. I feel that's another like part of it.
Yeah.
Because that movie itself, if anyone has seen it, like is very dystopian. It's like about people starting like relationships with AI, basically. So,
Yeah. Well, that's becoming more and more common. Like
mhm.
thousands of people, like AI, these AI women have got like thousands of boyfriends. I've heard these sorts of websites and platforms that's being used for. It's just like so like broad and like what they can do with it now, and there is just no handle on regulating it.
Mhm.
And at the minute, the governments are just leaving it to the courts to just
Mhm.
decide things, and then which isn't a bad way to do it because there's a lot of pressure on sort of individuals within governments to regulate. But what is the best way to do it? I know that we've seen a few examples, haven't we? Because we were looking to see if anyone's actually trying to get to grips with it. And I know South Korea, they've announced recently that the government's going to try and introduce a copyright law or system
Mhm.
to try and help with AI. And I think that's the biggest thing. It all comes down to copyright. Like my website was a personal website that was originally used by AI for learning.
Mhm.
I never consented to that. So now WordPress have introduced a new setting where you can sort of opt out to protect your content. And it's the same with any kind of author and artists. I know that Sarah Silverman, comedian, she's leading like a big claim against ChatGPT, and it's just again as an author, she was her books and stuff were used
Mhm.
without consent, and it all comes down to this sort of this key point that AI, everything that's generated by AI originates from some kind of human creative source. So it's intellectual property at the end of the day. And if you
Yeah.
just sort of scramble the data to make it look unique, it's like deception, almost trying like that kind of vibe.
Yeah, no, I think on the South Korean thing is also they said that they're trying to introduce a package of 20 policies that will deal with this. So like they're trying to do it more of like a case by case basis, I think, which is interesting. Like
Yeah,
obviously because if you enter a lawsuit then that can become common law. But obviously, because it's so new, like how do you even deal with that to begin with? Like you can sue individuals like ChatGPT, Sam Altman, OpenAI, Google, if you wanted to. But like in order to even start that, like where do you begin? Like you can't sue an AI effectively. You can sue the person that owns it, but it's
yeah,
still like a machine learning algorithm. It's still going to pass everything. Not to talk about like to circle it back to SEO a little bit, their own like algorithm for the search is it's constantly learning. It scrapes every single website on the entire web, to learn what people want to click on, what people want to see, what people expect to see from certain websites. And that's been around for like way longer than any of this AI stuff.
yeah,
And that hasn't really been in legislation. I mean, it's going to be in legislation very soon in September, to see what they do with all that, like the United States government. But
yeah,
like, it's all like a part of it. And to go to another story about copyright as well. I've seen you to mention Sarah Silverman, and then another high profile one is Billie Eilish, suing AI generated music for trying to like well for using her likeness, and but John Bon Jovi as well. He got involved with it.
yeah,
So those are two high profile names that are they're basically trying to sue AI music generators for
yeah.
training on their music.
We've been messing around, haven't we, in the office with this new AI music platform called Udio.
Hmm.
It is good fun. It was free, and you have to pay for it now. But one of the things that we were looking at, weren't we, is like this. We made like a sort of a classical Lord of the Rings style piece, and some of it did sound like it was just taken from a Lord of the Rings score. So
Hmm.
we were looking, weren't we, on the site to see if they disclosed where or how or the materials that the platform used to learn. And it was just so vague. It was just literally one line on the website that said, "We do not use copyright materials for learning."
Yep.
And because these are private companies, like there's nothing to compel them to disclose this information. And you mentioned the US trying to tackle the issue, and I think that's one of the things that they're gonna aim to do. I think there's a congressman who's put forward this bill that will force AI companies to disclose their sources, which is going to be really interesting. And it makes you wonder, like, how bad it actually is behind closed doors.
Uh, uh, it depends on how much they can like. They might be able to like fluff the information as well. They might say, "Oh, we have access to this." The New York Times was the biggest. I think is the biggest lawsuit out of the law at the moment, which is because when you search like specific news stories or like information from them on ChatGPT, it was using literally everything from like their archives, which is a paid service as well. But it's making it quote unquote free if you use ChatGPT. So like, but the free version of it, even the free version of it, and you could get information from that, even though it's not available to the public anymore, and it's like pay gated. So they
Yeah,
wanted to stop that. Another thing I've seen, and this will circle us back to more SEO matters. There was an article that came out recently. It was talking, basically asking OpenAI, like a whole. Some reporters basically asked them because there was some evidence found that they have been using over 1 million hours of YouTube content for machine learning on ChatGPT. Obviously, YouTube is owned by Google. And so that's one part of it that's already creating legislation problems. And the head of YouTube has come out and said that this is not okay because people on YouTube own that material as well as Google owning YouTube. So you
yeah,
can't really do that. And then it came out that Google has been using training Bard or Gemini or whatever they want to call it now on those same YouTube videos. So like, where does that happen?
yeah,
So that creates like a whole new like legislative loop there because you have YouTube who owns the company, they're against OpenAI using it, but they're still stealing from their own creators. Oh, sorry,
yeah,
learning from their own creators, but we know what that means. Um, and so how do you even make legislation around that? How do you make it? YouTube technically probably owns every single video on there. I mean, the creators have it and they get paid for it, but they get paid by YouTube and paid by AdSense and stuff like that. Um, so what's interesting to me now is with the WordPress thing that you said, it's an opt-out system. It's not an opt-in. So what that means is by default, you your websites are submitted to AI. You have to opt out of it, not opt in.
yeah,
So that means a lot of people that are just unaware of it, then they'll never find that button and they'll never click it because they just wouldn't know that. And creates just a load of problems. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Recently, 2 days ago, I listened to a Google Ads, well, primarily Google Ads presentation by Google. They do it every year. And in it, a lot of the focus was on AI and specifically how you can use AI image editing to help your performance max campaigns. So what they showed like basically a couch, and then you could make that a background, whatever you wanted behind it, or like behind it or around it, whatever. As long as you have the couch there, and you had like millions of options that you could choose from, and it would just generate them for you using generative AI. Um, so that creates even more and more of like, where does it, rather than making a photo shoot, you can just do a photo shoot in your Google Ads account.
yeah,
So, that creates more problems. And then on top of that, you have you have these sponsored campaigns that go above the SEO results. Those are getting even more tools to like now stay above. Like
mm,
you can't use those Google images anywhere else. I mean, I guess you can probably copy and paste them and use them in your marketing if you wanted. But obviously images they generate are generated by them before use in the campaign.
Yeah.
So I wonder if there's going to be legislation around that, like if you won't be able to use them even though it's using your product because it's
Yeah.
using the frameworks.
It's such a gray area, isn't it? I honestly think that going, depending on how these first cases go, like if that bill, for example, gets passed in America and everyone
Hmm.
has to disclose the sources, AI could get sunk by all the claims.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah,
it is mega, mega. And like you're gonna get into a situation now where you say YouTube have said that's not good that you're using our videos. So they're gonna get into litigation war, I imagine.
hmm,
Um and I don't know. I kind of feel like about all this machine learning stuff's good in certain aspects. Like they've got it coming. Like they deserve everything that they're gonna get because they've not gone about it the right way. They've been quite secretive about and not very transparent about what they're using, going against like people's wishes. Like Scarlett Johansson said no, and they've done it anyway. It's that arrogance in it. It's like they've created something that's so powerful, and you just think, well, shrug their shoulders and think, oh, we're still gonna be here, you know what I mean? Just because we've done this, it's like we're not
yeah,
going anywhere. And I don't know. You've got to be really careful about letting something like this go unchecked. But like I say, we'll swing this back around to SEO because there's a lot of potential there for AI. I don't know if you saw that video that was created by the co-founder of LinkedIn, Reid Hoffman. He basically created an AI version of himself, and it was basically a resource that that people could turn to and like ask him questions and stuff like that. So like if you're trying to like coach staff, for example. Like if you've got like a big workforce and you know loads about SEO and you're trying to coach your staff, you could create like your own little prompt or like bot that could take all of the information that you have and it's based on that. So it's I mean there's little things like that you could use. But what do you think in terms of SEO? What are the biggest benefits that you've seen when it comes to AI?
I know one of my friends. He was an SEO for like a multiple different companies and firms and stuff like that. And he really likes it for generating meta descriptions and HTML titles because like going through each page on a website and going through millions of them and then putting over thousands of them, putting unique meta descriptions in can be really tiring and take a lot of time. And because it doesn't really impact the rankings, it only shows up as like your little spiel to help people click on it. It's like a lot of what can feel like wasted effort when you do it.
Yeah,
And HTML titles are pretty much kind of the same, but they do factor more into the rankings. Um, and what he said is that those meta descriptions are just like it's like a very good way of just doing something quickly, and it's not really something that you have to think about when you do it. And I don't really like doing that. Like I would prefer to just do like my own and try to do it like the quote unquote right way.
yeah,
Uh, but I know also a lot of writers like from like friends that I've worked from in different jobs before, they've come back and they've said they've used it only to like fill out like landing pages and things like that, like stuff that you don't really want to rank
mm,
because it's easier and it also it can sometimes be better than what a human might write, like for like enticing someone to uh, use it.
yeah,
Um, I think from my own experience, the only thing that I've ever done it for is for fun, like giving it random prompts and seeing what it comes back with. And that not, that is not really like something that you would use for work or SEO, but it's just something that you do for fun. But with, I think in terms of like SEO, what worries me is like, or rather, what makes me sort of happy, but sort of like worries me in the future as well, is that the Google update from a while back, which you've talked about before on this podcast, when it came out, a lot of the chatter was about like AI websites and like the impact that it had on them. And I think maybe what is going to happen is that because Google is pushing it so hard on like the sponsored content and like the Google ads. There might be some inverse impact on it. So like, what if you use the ad text that Google gave you and you try to use it on your website, if you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like, you take the information they give you, you use it on your site. Is that going to get penalized? Is that going to not rank as highly because it was generated by AI, or is it going to rank higher because Google gave you it, so it sees it as like a positive thing,
Yeah.
like a positive thing to use?
It's this weird like echo chamber effect, isn't it?
Yeah.
Where it's like it's scraping, like AI generators are just scraping the internet and regurgitating what's already out there. And then the same stuff's just getting shouted out and shouted out. And I think I've used AI quite a lot, more experimentally, especially for its help with like creating content. Um, I edit it all, just to make sure it's good, because a lot of the time it says a lot without saying anything at all. It's just got a
Mm-hmm.
really good way of fluffing sentences up with just meaningless words and then repeating itself, and you don't really learn anything. And that's what I've noticed the most when it comes to like reviewing the stats, is that these pages, they'll rank and then start accumulating keywords quite fast, and then they might start getting good positions. And then once people start using the page and reading the content, the rankings just drop like so sharply. It's insane. And it must be, I'm guessing, Google has finally got that into a position where it's getting visitors and real people are using it and realizing that it's AI and it's crap and it doesn't really teach you anything. So high bounce rates, low time spent on page, and then that will ultimately see your rankings drop. So I honestly feel that, yeah, it's good to use for certain things, like to make processes more efficient and stuff like that. But for creating content, like specifically written content, I think it's absolutely useless.
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah.
and I'm glad that Google's recognized that now and has penalized a load of heavily AI generated sites, and sort of put more focus on the human generated content.
However, when will that stop? Like, that's my thinking. Like,
Yeah.
SEO jobs have fallen by 37% in the last quarter, and they probably will keep falling down because people think like you can just get a DI to do it, and you don't need to have anyone writing your content or reviewing it or anything like that.
Yeah.
So that might be the biggest impact that it has. Also, fresh off the presses, news story from 12 minutes ago. I'll just read it out because obviously it's new anyway. Michael Schumacher's family win legal case over tasteless AI-generated interview in German tabloid Die Aktuell, or something like that. So they must have generated a fake interview and put it in the in the news publication or something.
Terrible.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
SEO